Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Two Spot Monkeys Live. Joining us here for episode 122. I'm Tom, joined as always by Jim. Jim, great to be with you. How you doing, bud?
It is Victory Friday. Finally. As we've talked about before, I'm a Bears fan. 14 losses in a row, 40-20 over Washington. In Washington last night. So I am a happy Bears fan. Wearing a Wisconsin hoodie instead of a Bears hoodie this morning. But for the first time in almost a calendar year, it is a good time to be a Bears fan. So, I'm not, as I told Tom before we started recording, I'm not waving the, let's go get playoff tickets yet flag, but it's just nice to feel okay about your team after 1 week and be reasonable enough to say, we'll see. We have, I believe, Minnesota in a week and a half here, which will be an interesting divisional matchup. So, but that's a winnable game. The Raiders are after that. That's a winnable, maybe we start winning the winnable games instead of blowing them like last week. It's probably a good thing that they had a Thursday game, because otherwise I would have had an epic rant probably on the blown game against Denver last Sunday. So I'm going to give them a pass on that because of last night.
So funny story. I'm in a fathers and sons fantasy league. It's a friend of mine, his son, and my son, just the four of us. So it's a super deep league. Rosters are big because it's just four competitors. My son's been pretty on top of learning and following the NFL. He's 12, so it's emerging. Very big Bengals fan. I think we've talked about that here before. He's disappointed in the Bengals and Joe Burrow to start the year, but he won't give up on them. Well, so last night I pick him up from robotics and I go, hey dude, there's a game tonight. You've got some people. You got to just make sure that your team is good to go before this weekend. He has Justin Fields. He's like, yeah, Dad, Fields hasn't been performing. So he picks up a quarterback and he's like, I'm going to put Fields on the bench. I was like, that's not a bad idea. I go, you don't know for sure. He also goes, yeah, I'm also thinking of grabbing the Washington defense. I go, yeah, they're at home. They've been playing pretty good. Not a bad idea either. He gets up this morning. He gets out of the shower. And I go, hey, dude. I go, your moves last night didn't pay off. He goes, what? I go, yeah, the Bears stomped the Redskins or stomped the Commanders. I said Washington, actually, which is the right thing to say. And I go, yeah, you got a -1 for your defense, and Justin Fields has nearly 41 points on your bench. He's like,
and so, now he knows the pain we both feel week in and week out. Yep. I'm in a guillotine league where the lowest score each week gets chopped. We've talked about that a few times, I think. And I have Logan Thomas on that team, and I haven't played him because he really hadn't done a whole lot yet this year. And I have Darren Waller, who I keep leaving in my tight end spot, believing that the Giants will at some point remember that they traded for Darren Waller, because I don't think they know he's out there. That's the only – well, he's had some targets. Just Daniel Jones has been bad. But anyways, Logan Thomas has 22 points already sitting on my bench in a league where low score gets chopped. That if I get chopped with Logan Thomas on my bench, I'm going to be pretty salty, especially because it would probably be by less than 22 points.
Perhaps last fantasy football or football comment. Also, perhaps not. Go DJ Moore. Finally, DJ Moore did what I finally needed him to do, more so than any time previous this year. I have him in a mutual league. I would have loved if he would have done this last week when we played head-to-head. It doesn't matter. I'm going for hopefully the top scorer of the week, which is a good thing in this league. So we're off to a good start thanks to DJ Moore.
I got the top score in the league last week when I played you, Tom. So that at least, see, you can be happy when you lose in that case, though, because what anything you do is top score in the league. Okay. What sucks is when you have the second highest score in the league, you lose to that guy. We've all been there. So, all right. Well, enough fantasy football and football talk, but yeah, it's a good morning for me as a Bears fan. And I haven't been able to say that a whole lot over the last year. So literally almost a calendar year since the last Bears win. Let's talk wrestling, though. Head-to-head results. We weren't able to record last week before a big weekend of two premium live events, or pay-per-views as they were. One of each, I guess. So we did. I forgot to post the No Mercy picks on Twitter, so I do apologize for that. I did post the fallout of those and then the WrestleDream picks. And I never did post the fallout of the WrestleDream picks, but the fallout piece you can always, look up yourself. You know the results. You can look at our picks and see kind of how we did. But No Mercy wasn't great for either one of us, to be perfectly honest. You were 3-3. I was 2-4. WrestleDream a little bit different. We had the exact same picks for WrestleDream, so we were 8-2 each. Let's just hit each of those cards real quick and kind of just talk about reactions. You've seen most of No Mercy. I have seen none of No Mercy and probably won't at this point now because it's a week in the rear view, and I still have Dynamite to watch and Collision's coming. And yeah, timing wise, it's probably just not going to happen for me. Thoughts on No Mercy? Thoughts on results?
Yeah, so I've seen, as you mentioned, everything but the main event. I normally at this point would go, do I need to watch the main event? Actually, based on the highlights, I do want to go back and watch the main event. It looks incredibly brutal between Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton. Surprised that Braun Breaker lost to Baron Corbin. Not like that's it.
I didn't see anything. I did see that match, actually. I was able to watch a little bit of that on Saturday.
Yeah. And so surprised, but not surprised. I mean, I've said here before, like, I think Baron Corbin is a very underrated talent. I think him being back in NXT, which he's been for a few months now, gives him the chance to elevate other talent. So I thought he was going to be elevating Braun Breaker here, and by not, working with him just elevates him. But he actually he won the match, so that's good for Baron Corbin. Maybe I don't know. We'll see. NXT seems super weird for me. There's a lot of fun and cool and unique, but also just random, which leads to the next match, which was Dominic Mysterio losing the NXT North American title to Trick Williams of all people. And Trick Williams seems to be on a rocket ship to space with his push as of late. Previously connected to Carmelo Hayes and in that duo getting a lot of spotlight, but now he's on his own. And then not only that uniqueness, but later in the show, when Carmelo Hayes loses the title in the third crack to Ilya Dragunov, new NXT world champion or NXT champion, if you will. Now, so where's the dynamic between Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes? They trade a lot in terms of who has a title belt. The other stuff, again, we both picked the family to win the four-way. We both picked Noam Dar to retain the Heritage Cup. And then the other difference that we had was I had picked Lynch, you picked Stratton. It's going to be interesting. That's the weird part about Becky Lynch being the NXT champion. I don't think your pick was a bad pick. Like, I do think Tiffany Stratton should be the one that eventually gets the title back. Does that mean it has to come from Becky Lynch, or does it go to someone else from Becky Lynch and then by way back to Tiffany? I don't know if you saw this, and maybe it begins on Tuesday. I have not started to watch NXT yet. The women's breakout tournament has 8 names of people that I, on the surface level, don't care about and don't know a lot about. There are names that have been around for a while, like Jakara Jackson, for example, and I think she's part of Meta. But it's like, okay, you're going to tell me one of those 8 people are going to challenge for the NXT title by way of winning that tournament? Like, it feels like right now, before that tournament plays out, before they get booked and how they develop, that it's fodder for Becky Lynch.
Or whoever might be the tank by that point. Yeah. Because I this is kind of like waiting for RKO to break up. I feel like Lynch won the title. That's great. But the story was Lynch winning the title, getting the Grand Slam, all of that. And now, I really thought she won it so that Stratton could win it back at No Mercy, and get that big win on a premium live event. Like, that made total sense to me. So I was very surprised when I saw I was wrong on that. In fact, when I realized after I made my picks that you would pick Becky Lynch, I was like, heck yeah, I got this one. And no, I did not. Although I could have had another one. I really was pretty sure Ilya Dragunov was going to win the title, but I went Carmelo Hayes. And I'm not 100% sure why I did that when I first made the picks. And then earlier on that day, they announced that Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton was going to be the main event. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to stay with Hayes, because if Dragunov was going to win the title, like, I feel like that would be the main event. Now, I realized the Extreme Rules piece was part of why. And I also thought Stratton was winning. So I thought Stratton winning in the main event with Extreme Rules, like, that makes sense to me. You're kind of giving her that moment. So I think Hayes probably wins. Although in the back of my head, I thought, well, if Hayes wins, I mean, at this point, like, what do you do with Dragunov? Like, he can't challenge again at that point, can he, at some point? Like, unless there was some sort of chicanery or, I had thought maybe Dragunov was going to go to the main roster and replace somebody in Imperium maybe or something, because there's been all that tension there with Imperium on and off. But obviously not. He's going to hang out in NXT for a little while. So I was not surprised he won the title. I just talked myself out of the pick that I should have made on that one. So it happens.
Yeah. And what I've seen, very solid card. I'll be totally transparent. I did not watch it with my full attention. Maybe outside of there was maybe one match I watched fully. I'm not remembering because it was earlier in the week. And it's been a heck of a week. I will watch most likely the main event with full attention on it because it again, from the clips, it looks brutal. It looks like there's a nice gash or cut on Stratton's face. I know Becky Lynch had a big slice on her arm that required her to miss Raw on Monday to allow that to heal. And so and then like it was really interesting. I think it was on Raw. They posted like the photo. And it was a pretty graphic photo, like, and they're I think it was Michael Cole, and he said, just be aware, like, if you're gonna see this now, just it may not be for the faint of heart or whatever, something along those lines. And he was right; it wasn't for the faint of heart. So, yeah. So again, NXT has been the least viewed promotion product for me. So the fact that I got 3 out of 3 picks, I'll take that.
Yeah, and I watch very little NXT. I follow it with results and things. I actually, to give, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to pat myself on the back that I really thought Dragunov was going to win. I almost picked Out the Mud to win the tag titles because I just thought, well, they're a brand new team. That'd be a good way to establish them, all of those kinds of things. And then I was just like, I don't know. It just, 4-ways are like, I hate when titles drop in 4-ways because it's usually not even the champs that get pinned. And although I don't feel like, from what I understand of NXT and what I'm watching, the little bit I watch, and then what I read, like there's much going on with the family. Like it's just kind of feels like that division's in a little bit of a, I don't know, stalemate, I guess, for lack of a better word. I also thought about the Creeds. I did see, maybe I saw a little bit more of the show than I thought I did as I keep talking through this, because I saw the entrances for that, which also means that I saw Trick Williams win the title. I watched a little bit of this show, Tom. I lied to you earlier. It really wasn't memorable.
That's the sad part, right? When you're like, I actually saw this. Hang on.
I'm talking through it. I'm like, no, I saw that. I believe I saw the first 2 matches and then the entrances for the tag. Maybe just a little bit of that, but I have not seen the end of it. And the new look for Humberto and Angel, I like it. A little American Wolves-ish. At least they're not calling them the Latin Wolves or anything, too obvious that they're stealing from that. But the scratch marks and things, for me, it works better than Los Lotharios. So Los Lotharios was a really good gimmick if it was 1987. So I kind of like it. Hopefully they'll get behind them. They're both super talented guys, so I hope they get a chance. Then we move to Sunday. Nothing happened at WrestleDream. What? Yeah, WrestleDream. Tom, you have not seen WrestleDream, as we talked about, because you were at the Tigers game for Miguel Cabrera's last game, which, hey, sometimes things just happen on the same day, and you can only do one. And as much as WrestleDream was a really great show, knowing how much you love the Tigers and Miguel Cabrera, you 100% made the right choice that day.
It was amazing. It wasn't the best baseball game I've ever been to, but it was absolutely, without a doubt, the best sporting event I've ever went to. The emotion, the pageantry, it was a sellout crowd. I don't think I've ever been to a sellout baseball game in my life prior to this. My buddy who I went with, he goes, yeah, we went one time before when Clemens was with the Astros and pitched against the Tigers. Like, this would have been like maybe like 05 or 06. And I don't have that same memory. This was just unreal. Here's a great example of how unique it was for me as a fan, as a Tigers fan. I've been fortunate enough to go to 5 games this year. Every game I went to, I could have purchased a scorecard. They're $1.06. It's kind of annoying. The Tigers 2 years ago sold them because everything became cashless post-COVID. Last year, they started giving them back out for free. This year, they're now back to being $1, and you get charged sales tax, so it's $1.06. It's just super annoying. There's literally only one spot in the ballpark to buy at one of the stores. We got in pretty quickly after gates opened, but there were lines in downtown Detroit to get into the stadium, which again I've never experienced for a Tigers game. They sold out of scorecards. They weren't commemorative scorecards by any means. They sold out of scorecards for a regular home game. Like, and they weren't even dated. Like, they just give you unless I didn't see them and I saw people with them in their hands, they look to be the standard scorecards. There's an image, it's Cabrera on the front, and then you open it. It's a bifold, if you will, and it has the ability to score on one side and then the rosters on the other. But it doesn't. It's just the opponent and the series. So it's not like this was October 1, 2023, the final game of Miguel Cabrera. So again, commemorative, I could have imagined them being sold out. The fact that they were just normal and they were sold out, I was like, holy cow, because I love to score the games when I go. So I didn't have a chance to score the game. Now, retrospectively, we were packed in there like sardines. I haven't been to a game this year where I've been like shoulder to shoulder and really can't move. Plus, it was beautiful in Michigan last Saturday. It was nearly 80 degrees on October the 1st. So all of that being said, that was just one example of how the atmosphere contributed to that. And we weren't even home based on leaving the ballpark, traffic, so on and so forth, till like 8:45 that night. So if I had even wanted to watch Wrestledream, I would have missed, an hour and 45 minutes when you count 0 hour. But I know you watched it, and I would love to hear your take because I know that I was eager to follow the results. So
yeah, it was a really strong show all the way around. 0 hour was I did miss the 4 or the 8 person tag on 0 hour. Was just kind of finishing things up around the house, and that's fine. I certainly wasn't that upset about missing that. But I tuned in, I think, just as Claudio and Barnett were getting going. I didn't see the entrances for that, but the match was happening as I turned it on. And that was as good as you would expect Claudio and Josh Barnett to be, right? I mean, both super gifted technical wrestlers, really fun. Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne, interesting based on how things go later on in the evening, because Luchasaurus absolutely killed Nick Wayne with a choke slam to the ring apron, from the ring, like out to the ring apron. Like I thought we'd seen the last of Nick Wayne. Like he's a little guy to begin with, not a big guy, and he folded like an accordion. It was something. And then the trios title match, was what it was. Okay, so here's my thing. The ROH tag title match. MJF opens the show on the pay-per-view. I'm a little annoyed that we've had 2 pay-per-views in a row now where the AEW World Champion has been in ROH World Tag Team title matches, not AEW World title matches or even anything revolving around the AEW World title. So I'm glad at least that with Full Gear, we're going to correct that. We're going to get back to an AEW World title match. If Adam Cole is truly hurt, and I had my doubts at the beginning, but there's more and more coming out now that makes me think, okay, maybe I'm just a jaded wrestling fan who expects everything as a work. If Adam Cole's hurt, then just get the ROH belts off of them. Have some chicanery from Jay White or somebody and put them on an ROH team and let it be an ROH thing. You and I have talked numerous times about this whole ROH belts on AEW thing. And it just annoys me that it's the AEW World Champion now who's doing it. Don't get me wrong. I love MJF. I love everything he does. I would have been totally fine with the Righteous winning. And I almost was going to pick him because I just thought, okay, if Cole's hurt, like, you got to get the belts off him, right? You could have somebody come down and cause that. You could have the Kingdom. You could have whatever, you could have these mask guys who showed up a week ago. Because I haven't seen this week's show, so I don't know if that's followed up on at all or how it's followed up on Dynamite, but I don't believe for a minute it's MJF under that mask, or that it will be MJF revealed under that mask. You could have anybody you want under those masks right now. It doesn't mean that's who you're going to reveal. We saw that with Retribution. They had all sorts of people under those masks before they came up with the thing they did with that. So anyways, mini rant there about the ROH World Tag Team title. And I know you feel the same way about ROH belts on AEW shows too, Tom.
We could have a whole episode, and maybe we will in the next couple of weeks, because I've had some strong opinions about ROH. I think we collectively have here. We've never really had a chance to like drill down, but we talked about it a few weeks back because it was preceding when I went to Collision, which they also taped Ring of Honor while I was at Collision, and I came out of that taping with even stronger opinions. So we'll put a pin in that maybe for now, but I'd love to come back and have that be a conversation point in a couple weeks, perhaps when we don't have a pick-em. Because I have some ideas, whether they would be utilized or not. You know, Tony listens to us, of course,
right?
Or Will Washington or Jimmy Jacobs or whoever's creative. Yeah, right. But I think you could do something a whole lot more with Ring of Honor than you are, more than just presentation. It goes back to my experience at the Collision show and then the tapings. But we'll pause there for now because we don't need to throw more fuel on that fire. But I agree with you that, you know, it just, again, since this was Wrestledream and it was arguably cross-promotional, I'm a little bit better or more allowing for there to be like multi-promotions focused on. It's still annoying. Like I'm still
I'm annoyed by it a little bit, that, you know, but I get what you're saying about the cross-promotional feel of WrestleDream. I guess I'm more annoyed that it's the AEW World Champion who's involved in that.
For sure.
And yeah, and I'm spoiler alert for anybody in our fantasy wrestling league who's listening. You know, we moved Ring of Honor up a tier this half season because of the exposure. I'm going to make the suggestion when we get to December and we're talking about season 17 that we move them back down a tier, because I just don't feel like they're worthy of where they're at, you know, for Ring of Honor. I think we could have rose-colored glasses and say, well, Tony Khan owns it and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, and the belts are featured on AEW somewhat. But as a promotion, I feel I'm way down on Ring of Honor right now. And again, that's probably a great conversation maybe for a couple of weeks from now. Spoiler alert, we're not recording next week, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show. WrestleDream kind of picking up from there. And then we go from the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles to a Ring of Honor World title match, and then JPW Strong match with Eddie Kingston and Shibata. I mean, Eddie Kingston, Katsuyori Shibata. Like, you can't screw that up, can you? So that was as good as expected there. Really fun match. The TBS title match, Julia Hart has really come into her own, both in the ring and as a character, I feel like. And she's going to be gone for a couple of weeks. I just read yesterday. She's getting married. She and Lee Johnson are getting married. We've been together for a while, and so they're both going to take a little time off. I'm like, trust me, we're going to miss Julia Hart more than we're going to even know that Lee Johnson was gone for a couple of weeks. Sorry, Lee Johnson. And hey, you know, congrats on the marriage. Julia's a beautiful girl. You know, kudos, buddy. But wrestling career-wise, she surpassed you a long time ago, my friend. But I really think she's coming to her own. You know, they built her up with this 28-match win streak, although I feel like I saw about 3 of those because I think some of those must have been on Rampage, things that I don't catch. It's kind of like when they used to build up win streaks on Dark and nobody knew about them until they were like, well, this team's won 18 matches in a row, so they get a tag title shot. And you're like, they beat nobody's. And she has had some featured matches. I don't mean to say it, but I just think her character and her in-ring has come a long way since joining House of Black. So kudos to her. She's super young. She's like 20 or something.
21.
21. Okay. She was like 19 when she debuted, I think. So I mean, the sky's the limit for that girl as she moves forward. So that was really fun, and I love Chris Statlander. So there was some good stuff there too. Let's see where are we at next. The number one contender, no DQ, because 4 ways or no DQs. So I picked the Young Bucks. You picked the Young Bucks. We both picked them anticipating that Aussie Open would win the tag titles, which we'll talk about a little later, because I thought that was kind of I don't know if it's a fresh match. It's probably happened before. Again, our crackpot research team didn't look that up before they just said that, i.e. me, when I said it. But I know obviously they're building now to FTR Young Bucks 4, probably at Full Gear, I would assume. I just don't know why we need that match again, to be perfectly honest. So
there was something interesting in the build to that 4-way where I feel as if they said like it was like the title shot was like anytime, anywhere. I feel like it wasn't; those weren't the exact words, but it was like almost like an on-demand title shot, which made me feel like it was like a Money in the Bank style.
okay.
But again, like we've talked about this before, AEW and continuity aren't always hand in hand. So maybe that was posted one time, and maybe it's not a thing. Maybe it is a thing, but they're clearly not talking about it. But yeah, so again, yes, interesting. I'm glad we both were right with the Young Bucks. I think that was the right team to win coming out of that. The Guns would have been maybe the only other team that I would have saw, and maybe more so the Guns now because FTR retained, because there was, as best I recall, when FTR won the titles from the Guns back in April, the Guns have never had a return match.
I don't believe they did.
Yeah. Again, we wrote again. I know we're jumping ahead in the actual chronological results, but yeah, by Aussie Open not winning, opening and winning when you combine those words, it makes Young Bucks FTR 4, which I mean, maybe there's an appetite for. I didn't see the Wembley show, so I don't know the reception to that.
I mean, it was good, and don't get me wrong, it's going to be good again if it's at Full Gear or wherever it happens. Like, it's going to be a good match. I just don't know why we need this quickly after. If you again a year from now or something, let's do it. Let's run it back one more time or whatever. Sure. I believe of the first 3, FTR is up 2-1 because the Wembley match was the rubber match, is my memory. So. Spoiler alert, I'm probably going to pick the Young Bucks to win the tag titles at Full Gear because I don't see them booking themselves to lose 3 out of 4 to FTR.
And it's in LA. That's right. That's their home territory.
So, yeah, I'm leaning towards Young Bucks a month before we even have to make those picks.
Before the match is even announced formally.
Right. We don't even know if it's a Full Gear, but it could be. Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page. It's hard for me to say match of the night on a night when you had Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. But it probably was the match of the night. Like,
I'm glad to hear you say that. I wasn't aware that it was that highly touted, but I respect your opinion so much, and I'm not surprised. I love both of these guys.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much more to do. Swerve specifically, Hangman's had more of a spotlight, so I love that.
I hope this is the start of an ascent for Swerve, because I feel like every time I think they're going to do that, then all of a sudden he's feuding with people I don't think he should be. Right. Like people that I just don't think are going to help elevate him. I hope this isn't the end of him and Hangman Page either. I believe if I saw right, and you've seen Dynamite, he's wrestling Danielson next week on Title Tuesday. Is that?
For the TNT title #1 contendership.
Which that part's a little weird to me. Like, what the... like I'm not dying to see Christian Cage versus either of those two. The Christian Cage versus either of them would be fine. Cage is good, but okay. Like you could have just told me it was Bryan Danielson versus Strickland, and I would have been like, that'll be really cool. Let's watch that. Like, okay, it's a TNT title shot, #1 contender. I feel like Danielson needs to win that then, because Swerve against Christian Cage is really big heel versus really big heel. Although what's Danielson? Is he a face? Is he a heel? I don't know. It depends on the week. Who's he facing? Which is kind of what Blackpool Combat Club is right now, right? I mean, depends on who they're facing. So yeah, Swerve and Hangman, though, I thought was really, really good. Good story. Really good highlight. I kind of wish it didn't go on right before Danielson Sabre, because I almost feel like the hype for Danielson Sabre was so big that it was going to overshadow now what Swerve and Page had just done, but it has gotten some good reviews. I haven't seen what Meltzer gave it. Not that his star ratings aren't the most important thing to me in the world, but some people live and die by those. So, and then Danielson Sabre was next, which I'll be honest, I was a little surprised it came this early. You still had 3 matches to go. I did see a comment that Danielson made. I don't know if it was at the Scrum or if it was an interview before, but he told Tony Khan he does not want to main event another show. I don't know if it's just he feels like it's too built up then or what, but like he's happy to not. I still hope he gets an AEW world title run, so he's going to need to main event some if he gets that. But he may not. I mean, he's wrapping up, his full-time in-ring career over the next year or so. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things I think Danielson still can do, and this was really, really fun, and it was what you would expect. And they made a point of talking about how Danielson was more of a striker than Sabre, but then Sabre hits a penalty kick, and they're like, "Yeah, Sabre can strike pretty well too." Like he's no slouch when it comes to striking either. He's known more for his holds and his wrap ups and his things, but he's not a slouch when it comes to that. Danielson is obviously still very much favoring that right wrist. You can tell it's not there yet as far as healing and the way he's striking and that. And even after the match, you just see the way he's holding that arm. You can tell like he's favoring that arm still, which is kind of amazing that he's having the performances he's having with one arm, basically at this point. Like when when all is said and done, Danielson wraps it up in the ring or wraps it up full time in the ring because he's somebody that you might see, here and there, even afterwards. He hasn't said that he wouldn't ever wrestle again after that. When you start talking greatest of all time, I realize when you're talking box office draws and things like that, he's not going to be in that conversation. He's, not at the John Cena, Rock, Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan levels. But entertainment value, and for me, like in ring and just character and all of that, like he's right up there. I mean, Ricky Steamboat's my number one. Nobody's ever taken that spot. But I mean, Danielson is right up there in that top 2 or 3 for me. And I know he's really high for you too, Tom. This would be one time if you happen to find it on YouTube or one of those, like both these last 2 matches, Swerve and Hangman and Danielson Sabre. Feel free to take your time and watch those. Or if you need a BR login, let me know. I'll hook you up. Then we move on to the 6-man, the Don Callis family over Jericho, Omega, and Ibushi. Ibushi had moments here, but Ibushi's not right. And you've seen that a little bit, Tom, in his other matches, but something's, I don't know if it's injury. I don't know if it's desire. I don't know if it's a little bit of both. But he's not right, Tom. Takeshita, maybe one of the best in the world right now. I mean, holy crap, that guy is amazing. And kudos to Jericho. I don't. Every time a Jericho match gets announced, we talked about this a few times, Tom, and I think you kind of feel the same way. Every time a Jericho match gets announced, I'm like, okay, we got a Chris Jericho match, yay. And then when it's these big matches, like the dude just knows how to put them together and make other people look good and not look like an idiot himself either, but like one of the better minds in wrestling. I mean, you have to tip your cap to the guy.
Yeah, I've actually had the opposite opinion about Jericho. So Jay Lethal is the person that I would put in that slot. Like that was my attitude towards Jay Lethal. And then he would step into the ring and I'd be like, oh my gosh, he's amazing, right? Jericho, on the other hand, and maybe I'm biased, and I probably am biased because I listen to a lot of the Jericho podcast episodes. And a lot of it, he does reflect on his performances and his role in AEW. So I think I can't not be biased by that. I don't know how much biased I am, but yeah. So again, amazing. He's 51, 52, and he's still like just exceeds expectations, which is good for him. I mean, he's valuable to AEW. He's valuable in the spot that he's in. The stories continue to be compelling, in my opinion.
And the idea of Jericho and Omega working together is just a little bit like, what? And that's what it's supposed to be. I did think it was funny. I've seen just the very opening of Dynamite. And when Adam Copeland, who we'll talk about here in just a couple of minutes, walks on the screen during the interview, and Kenny says, well, you had me on the edge of my seat last night, the other night. Because I don't know if you've seen the clip from the scrum after WrestleDream, but MJF refers to him as Edge at one point, and Tony Khan goes, whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, I did not. That's funny, though.
And then it happened again later, and Khan doesn't respond. But, I mean, it's going to take a little while to get used to saying Adam Copeland, not Edge. The
Well, especially because they're calling him the rated R superstar.
Which, hey, here's an idea, WWE. How did you not trademark that? What? Yeah, well, and let's talk more about him in just a minute. But yeah, that one surprised me big time. The rated R superstar piece. We had the tag title match. I guess we've talked about that a little bit already. I'll just say again, phenomenal. I love Aussie Open. I know you love Aussie Open. I really wanted them to win the tag titles here, not because I don't love FTR, but I just thought it would freshen things up. It would do a new thing. I didn't need to see FTR Young Bucks again, so I thought Young Bucks Aussie Open, that'll be really fun. Nope, that's not what we're doing. We're going FTR Young Bucks. I just hope that here's my thing then have Aussie Open be the ones to take the ROH tag titles. We thought they were going to do that a while back too, and they did for like a week and a half or something. Put some belts on those people. Those two men deserve them. Although unfortunately Mark Davis broke his wrist, I believe, so in that match, and it's very evident when he stops using that arm too. So it looks like, I'm guessing he might be out a few weeks.
He has had the worst luck with injuries. Oh my word.
Yes. And Kuda's tough dude to finish out the match the way he did, and do everything he did. He's had the worst luck. And Kyle Fletcher can hold his own, and he did in some singles matches when Davis was out the last time. But hopefully it's just, maybe a 4 to 6 week kind of thing for Davis, or maybe he can even work through it after a little bit with a cast on his arm or something, and being smart about what he does. I don't know. I haven't heard how bad it is, if he needs surgery or anything like that. But a little bit of a bummer there on that. And then we get to the main event. 2 out of 3 falls. Christian Cage, Darby Allin. I think the minute it was announced that this was the main event, I don't know about you, Tom, but I had a pretty good indication of what was going to happen at the end of it. I will say I did not expect, as our pick'ems clearly showed, neither one of us expected Christian Cage to win that match. Although watching it live, when Nick Wayne got in the ring and he had the TNT title in his hand, I went, he's turning on Darby. Like, when they're just standing in the right way where they're going to turn the other direction and whack the guy, like, it was telegraphed in my mind. Again, been watching wrestling for almost 40 years. He's going to turn on Darby. And sure enough, there he did. I was like, okay. And then, so the weird part for me is, as this plays out, because you haven't seen it, Tom. So after the finish, the match ends, and Nick Wayne's mom's yelling, "No, Nick, why?" I thought maybe they were going to turn her into like the Julia Hart, and she was going to be the evil woman behind it all. But they didn't do that, or they at least didn't do it yet. If they're going to, it's like now is Christian Cage and Mrs. Wayne going to be an item because he's been making all these comments about her and her bikinis and whatever. They didn't go there anyways. So Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus and Christian Cage are all beating down Darby, and Sting comes out to no music, no fanfare, no nothing. Like, there's this cheer from the crowd, and you kind of see a figure walking towards the ring, and I'm like, okay, well, is that how they're going to debut Adam Copeland? Like, he's just going to walk out with no, like, nothing? And then they're like, oh, it's Sting! It's like, but they just show him walk into the ring, like, no music, no nothing, like, it was
and usually every time previous to that, it's always been the music.
Right. And so that was just like bizarre the way they did it. So of course then it's a 3-on-2, and I'm like, yep, here we go. Who's going to be the third that's going to even the score, and the lights go out, which of course, Tony's gotten himself in a little trouble with that before, because he's done it. It worked really well with Malachi Black, and then he did it for Satnam Singh, and that went over like a fart in church. So this one worked a lot better though. And then you hear a female voice, a different voice, say, "You think you know me." And Edge's music that he's been using for years in WWE, because he was the one who had that copyright, much like Cody had the copyright on his music from AEW, plays. And I mean, the place goes banana, as Pat Patterson would say. I like that they teased that Edge was going to join up with Christian and do a concerto to Darby or Sting or whoever it was. I think it was Darby. And then, of course, he, whacks Luchasaurus with chair, and he's a babyface, which you got to bring it. Adam Copeland. See, I just about did it there too. You got to bring him in as a babyface, right? I mean, he's going to get the pops. Interestingly, in the scrum, or maybe in a tweet, I don't remember, he admitted or said that he wanted to work more often in WWE, and WWE was like, nah, we're good. And that was part of why he decided when his contract was up to make this jump. So he's going to be regular in AEW. Imagine having a guy with that much experience who can help your young guys that much and being like, nah, we're good. We don't need you.
Doesn't make sense to me.
And from all accounts, a good locker room guy, a good all of those things. You know, I mean, like, I think AEW made a really smart signing here. And even MJF said that. Like, MJF in the scrum afterwards made the comments, you know, here comes another signing, another guy who's coming for my spot. And I'm, you know, you're going to peel this belt off my, you know, out of my dead hands or whatever. And then he stopped and he goes, but really good signing, Tony. Really good. Like, you know, like, even he had to be like, that was a no-brainer. What were your thoughts when you saw that Copeland had debuted?
Yeah, so weeks ago, I thought this was coming. I didn't know when it was going to come, right? So I thought maybe
it's been one of those worst kept secrets, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I thought too. Like, again, our picks show this was in Washington, Seattle, Washington, main event. Darby's got to get the title. The story's been about Darby chasing this title all the time. He's finally going to overcome, and he doesn't overcome. Like, so Christian still being the champion is unbelievable. But Adam Copeland showing up. Pretty sweet. I've loved the clips. Wait till you get to Dynamite and wait till you see that, because the closing segment between Christian Cage and Adam Copeland is great. Like, it starts and then it builds and it builds and it builds, and then it ends a little bit flat, I think, just because of the timing. Small critique of that. Overall, it's fantastic. Thrilled to see him debut next Tuesday on Title Tuesday Dynamite, which is on a different night, against Luchasaurus. Where they go with this, and the matches that Adam Copeland mentions that he wants to have are awesome, and I'm sure we'll get all of them, if not most of them. But he wants to reconnect with Christian Cage and then have matches against FTR and the Young Bucks, and I want those too, right? So, like, we've got like divergent.
And I think we'll get them at some point.
Yeah. So we've got like divergent stories. Like, we've got Adam Copeland as the singles, and then you've also got the potential of Adam Copeland and Christian Cage as a duo with some of these dream matches. I can guarantee you Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler are chomping at the bit for the prospect of, I don't know, Double or Nothing next year, and those teams colliding.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, all in, Wembley Stadium, Edge and Christian, or Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, FTR Young Bucks ladder match.
That'd be sick,
right? I mean, just kind of redo the Hardys Dudley thing. I mean, not that those two teams are anything like the Hardys and the Dudleys, although you could make some Young Bucks and Hardys correlations. FTR and Dudley's very different teams, but I don't know. That seems like a Wembley Stadium match to me. Oh look, it's my best friend, potential spam, calls me a few times a day. Sorry. So here's my thing with the TNT title thing. Like, if you're going to branch off with an Adam Copeland, Christian Cage story, which seemed the most obvious thing to do, the TNT title doesn't have to be any part of that. So I didn't understand why they didn't switch it to Darby. Then have the beatdown. That's fine. Have Nick Wayne turn on him, whatever, fine. Do everything you did. I just think you could have flipped the title. And I'm not even just saying that because I wanted the title win points in our fantasy wrestling league, which did. But yeah, that part was weird to me. Like, is Darby still going to be the one to beat him? And if not, at this point, I feel like the only reason to put the title on Christian Cage was so Darby Allin could beat him. Like, that was the whole story. And maybe that still happens, but we'll see. Tom, if I would have told you when we last recorded a couple of weeks ago, Adam Copeland's going to debut in AEW, it's guaranteed. I've talked to Adam myself, and he's coming in. Tom, who do you think his first match is going to be? How far down the list would you have gone before you would have gotten to Luchasaurus, though? Even though I think that's going to be really cool, and it's a very cool, like, hey, I didn't see that coming, but, like, would you have guessed that was his first match?
Because of the Christian Cage connection,
sure.
Maybe, but your point's well taken.
Yeah, I would have guessed it would have been like the main event, and it may yet be the main event, but I would have guessed like Christian Cage or even a Kenny Omega or like something big. but storyline wise, it makes total sense. And Luchasaurus is really good, so this could be another chance for him to show what he can do.
Well, and this goes back to your comment of him disclosing, Adam Copeland being him, that he wants to work more, right? He doesn't necessarily need like that dream match out of the gate. Like him against Luchasaurus can build to what he'll end up doing at Full Gear. So this is
which is probably way smarter. Tony Khan loves booking him some dream matches for no reason, so I kind of thought he'd do that to start.
Totally agree with you. So this is a good thing we haven't done in the last couple of post AEW events that I'd love to do, but I'm going to take two things off the table. So usually we like to say, okay, so now with this in the aftermath, and I know we're running quick on time, we're going to have some really quick Fastlane picks.
Yeah, Fastlane picks, yes.
You can't. So the AEW title match for Full Gear is firmed up on Wednesday. I think you know what that is.
Yep.
So you can't name that. We also think that there's potential for Young Bucks and FTR, so you can't name that. Give me the three matches that you think that we're going to get at Full Gear, not counting those two that are already on the table.
Good. I think we get Christian Cage and Darby Allin one last time in some sort of a cage or last man standing, some definitive end. I think we get Kenny Omega, Konosuke Takeshita. I was trying to come up with what that's going to look like, but maybe we get the third match or the second singles match of them. And I have a few different ways I could go, but I'm going to go women's. Saraya, Toni Storm.
Okay. I'm going to go way outside those bounds. I like what you said. I hope we get those things on the card. I'm going to go that Bryan Danielson.
Adam Copeland. So what the heck?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Adam Copeland, Sting, and Darby versus Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne 6-man tag.
Makes some sense.
Even though I really would like a singles match for Adam Copeland on that first event, I think the 6-man makes more sense and gives you more room to maybe if you turn to Revolution, which I can't imagine there not being something between Full Gear and Revolution now, if Revolution isn't until March.
There's strong rumors of a December pay-per-view. Now that might be Final Battle, but there's strong rumors of a December pay-per-view.
For sure. Yep. So again, and with WrestleDream being now in this portfolio of events, you have to think they're adding a couple more. So there's that match. I'm going to also say TNT title match. Bryan Danielson defends against Ricky Starks. So Bryan Danielson beats Swerve next Tuesday, which I won't be happy about because I think Swerve really needs to continue to be built. But Danielson somehow, some way gets that win. Adam Copeland
do that in a way though, where like maybe Adam Page is involved or something, and
right, yeah, and then I think Adam Copeland helps Bryan Danielson, not that he needs it, unseat Christian Cage, and then Ricky Starks and Bryan Danielson seems to be or would likely be resolved, but it's not. So, but that Bryan Danielson putting over Ricky Starks, getting the TNT title on Ricky Starks as we close out 2023 into 24, I think is a spot that you go to. That's 2. 3. I'm gonna go Jericho, Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, I thought about that one too. Makes a lot of sense. And I hope we don't get another tag mix, tag thing, 6-man, something like that. Like we had that. So now I want to see those singles. That's why I went Omega Takeshita, because I think that makes sense.
Can't you wait for the Sammy Guevara, Taya Conti and Child versus Chris Jericho and 2 mystery partners?
I can't wait.
No. It's not. I mean, yeah. Got the baby in the sling. Let's go.
Sammy Guevara's when Jericho's 70 and Sammy Guevara's Child is making its in-ring debut against Jericho. Yeah, that'll be something to see on the 24th edition. 24th.
I'm pretty sure he said it's going to be a girl too.
Which makes that match even all the more interesting. You are right. It is, as you said, that it is in fact. They are having a girl, which congrats to Sammy and Ty. All right, well, we got like 5 minutes to make our Fastlane picks, and we got 5 matches to pick, so that'll be fine. We get about it. And you know what? We're putting as much thought into this as WWE has in a lot of ways. So, although, hey, they've got 5 matches booked for it. So, there's a 6-man tag. Bobby Lashley, Angelo Dawkins, and Montez Ford who appear to be back on the same page. What in the was that when it looked like they were going to break them up after a week? Versus LWO. We think it's Santos Escobar, Rey Mysterio, and somebody to be one of the other members, but we don't know that for sure. Maybe that'll be cleared up on SmackDown tonight. Let's see.
I'm going to go first because I'm behind by one match. I feel like we talked about what the records before we recorded and maybe didn't say them. And we've only been together for 50 minutes. So why do I have such bad short-term memory? So just to recap, going into this weekend, you have a record of 46-18. I am 45-19. Hopefully we said that earlier. If we didn't say that earlier, now you know.
We did, but yeah, maybe not.
Yep. So I'm going to go Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits to get the win here.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits is my pick as well. There's no reason on God's green earth to beat them this early into their faction or teaming. And the fact that they even teased that they were going to break up was just incredibly stupid and reeked of Vince McMahon to me. So, yeah, if they put LWO over them, and honestly, to me, have Montez pin Rey Mysterio and move towards the U.S. title thing. But I think they're actually going to keep Street Profits probably in the tag division. So maybe it's Bobby Lashley, but it'll be interesting to see. Let's see. Then we move into the Undisputed Tag Title match, which was announced this last Monday, Judgment Day, of Finn Balor and Damian Priest defend against the hodgepodge tag team of Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. We're clearly headed towards War Games here at Survivor Series of Judgment Day against, Cody, Jey, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. And JD McDonough probably with Judgment Day makes sense there. So we're clearly headed towards that. I don't see Cody and Jey winning the titles here. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I still think Cody Rhodes is who's getting traded to SmackDown for Jey Uso. Like, at some point, I expect him to be like, it was me, like almost do the Vince McMahon thing, like, so that he can get closer to Roman and what he wants and all of that. I don't know why we have to drag it out as long as they have with this. Like, that part is weird to me. This will be really good. You got 4 really good competitors. I love the elevation of Jey Uso. I like Jey being on Raw. Keep him away from the bloodline for a little while. It'll come back. I fully expect Jey versus Jimmy at WrestleMania. But I like that. I think this will be really good, but, maybe the bloodline even gets involved. But I think Finn Balor and Damian Priest keep the belts. And
that's your pick to win?
Correct.
Okay. I wanted that clarity because my pick to win is Cody and Jey, but they're going to win by DQ and not win the titles.
Okay. And I thought you might do that when you asked my clarity on winning.
Yep.
Women's title match. Io Sky defends against Asuka and Charlotte Flair. Wow. There's a lot of star power in that one. Tom, you get the first pick.
Yeah, I wish I watched SmackDown, so I know what the heck is going on here. Io Sky, I have no idea. This is like throwing a coin in a pond and hoping that your wish comes true.
Yeah, I don't see the point in taking the title off her yet. So I'm going Io Sky as well, and I won't be shocked if we're both wrong on this. And maybe that's a good strategy move for me to take Io Sky as well to not lose a match. But it was who I was leaning towards. I haven't seen as much of SmackDown as I'd like to lately. I enjoy SmackDown, so I wish I would. The weekend comes and I'm trying to catch up on AEW, which is my number one choice. And between that and football, hasn't had time. I haven't had time. Then we go to a tag match: John Cena and LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. I'm going Bloodline. I don't want to, but I just think that makes more sense. John Cena is going to be around, it sounds like, through October. We'll see. The writer strike has been resolved, but the actor strike hasn't. So he still isn't going back to work yet. Bloodline.
Okay, I'm going to go John Cena and LA Knight. I think LA Knight is the next challenger for Roman Reigns whenever Roman Reigns reappears. Maybe he has reappeared, and again, I just don't watch SmackDown, so I don't know. But I think LA Knight, Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, juxtaposing a War Games match would be really cool.
And I did see a Facebook post yesterday that said, "Congratulations, Roman Reigns, on reaching 100 days of not defending the WWE title." And then we go to the main event. You get the first pick. Last man standing, Seth Rollins, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I was really like, it's been picked, but yes, it goes da da da. Yes. Seth Rollins all the way. This has actually been really entertaining. I've watched more Raw than I have anything else WWE wise. I will say the closeout of Raw being very heavy on the DIY return and the focus on Gunther and Imperium, all of that with a go home show. Not having this be the last segment was really interesting. It was in the middle of the show and it made a lot of sense. Still good, still a good angle. And again, the way they build the video packages, it'll still tell a great story. But just interesting booking and programming formatting by WWE.
Right, well, that's not on the pay-per-view. Like, so yeah, that was a little weird to me too. I agree. This has been great. Shinsuke, this is probably his best run since he came in on the main card, anyways, on the main roster. There's a little bit of me that thinks they could swap it to Shinsuke, and I wouldn't be shocked. But I think it's Rollins as well. I just don't know that I see them putting the title on Shinsuke. Although if they do, I won't be totally shocked because again, he's been on what I think is his best main card run, and that's a guy who had the Intercontinental title for like 6 years at one point. It felt that way anyways because he never defended it. But
so there we are. 5 matches in, fastest picks in the history of this show. Yes. 2 differences, which is great. With me being 1 match behind, I can either dig myself a deeper hole, I can close the gap, or I can maybe even take the lead. So as we shared earlier, we will not be back a week from today, but we will be back all fingers crossed and all T's dotted, I's dotted and T's crossed on Friday, October the 20th.
We'll be back then to talk more Fastlane, and maybe we'll get into that Ring of Honor conversation we talked about. So everybody have a safe week. Enjoy whatever wrestling you see this week. GCW has a War Game show this weekend. I'm hoping to catch that. We'll see. And then, and of course, Fastlane. So everybody have a great time. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with you here on Two Spot Monkeys Live.